I'm Scott Kerr, and you're listening to Facing the Giants, a podcast where I speak to today's luxury entrepreneurs about taking on the Goliaths of the industry. Today I'm speaking with Luis Torres, co-founder of Freud Cigar Co, a startup cigar company brand that evokes one of the most famous cigar smokers in history, Dr. Sigmund Freud. Luis is an experienced luxury sales, retail, and marketing executive who, over the course of his extensive career, has led architecture, national operations, and growth strategy for some of the most prominent luxury cigar brands. He has also served as National Director of Retail for a leading global cigar brand Davidoff of Geneva, and most recently CEO of Casa de Monte Cristo, the largest luxury cigar retail chain. Welcome, Luis.
Hi, Scott. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. So I'd love for you to share your professional background before launching Freud Cigar Company.
Yes. Well, my career has been luxury goods. The start of my career was jewelry and watches. I worked for the Danish luxury house, George Jensen, Georg Jensen. Just so happened that the CEO of that company became the global CEO of Davidoff of Geneva. And he invited me to join the premium cigar industry and invited me to interview. And the next phase of my career became luxury premium cigars and accessories for a decade. So I think the better part of my life has been, I was thinking about it recently, European luxury houses in one form or another of curated, beautifully handmade, either jewelry, watches, or premium handmade cigars or accessories, one manner or other of luxury something, and that's kind of been my whole life.
So were you a cigar smoker when you got into the business?
Yes, I mean I was a cigar smoker, but middling. I'd have a cigar here and there, but I didn't know what I was doing. When I joined Davidoff, I just completely fell in love. And I think you see it in a lot of different ways in other industries. Is that people in the knock in some quarters of the watch business is there's a lot of guys that are in the watch business that don't love watches. A lot of them are in it because it's a nice paycheck, or somehow they stumbled into it. And the same thing with cigars. I think you have some segment of people that it's a nice business and they kind of came upon it, and other people it's that, and they fell in love with it. And I'm in that camp where I just fell in love with it.
With a crowded premium cigar market with both top brands and boutique brands, what was the opportunity that you saw that inspired you to launch Freud Cigar Company?
I thought that there was a great opportunity to create a premium luxury house. I wanted to do it with the people I knew. It just so happened that one of the greatest names, if not maybe the greatest name alive that's ever done it, was going to soon be available to work with. I had a vision about the kind of cigars I wanted to make. I wanted to, if you're paying attention, a lot of people are making cigars that are a little bit too strong, a little bit too overwhelming. It's kind of what's happened to the American market, and I wanted to do something a little different. Cigars that were complex, interesting, but that were a little bit more accessible, and that's what we've done. So that I think in a nutshell is what I saw the opportunity and what was available, and I think we've done a great job.
So with a name like Freud Cigar Company, the brand was obviously inspired by one of the most famous cigar smokers, Sigmund Freud, who reportedly puffed through like 20 cigars a day.
Yeah.
You even have an illustrated portrait of the man himself on
Yes.
your cigar bands.
Yes.
So why did you choose Freud for the brand? Is it more than just the association with cigar smoking?
Yeah, I just think super interesting world historical figure. So much breakthrough work. In many ways, even more prominent than Churchill as a cigar smoker, certainly more prolific. I just, when I was thinking about what we were going to name this, it came upon me, and I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity. And we had a few meetings, and I'm like, but it's not going to be available. Our law firm, Denton's, the White Shoe International law firm that does all our work, they did a worldwide search, and they came back and they're like, it's completely available and it can be yours.
Wow.
And in short order, we took all the steps to trademark the name for premium cigars and cigars, tobacco accessories, and it just all made sense. It just all made sense. If I'm really honest with you, I wanted to name it Reina Cubana, Cuban Queen, which was the cigar brand that Freud smoked.
Ah.
And I've just trademarked that, so now I can can tell people the story in total.
And naturally, with a name like Freud Cigar Company, you decided to name your first cigar SuperEgo.
Yeah.
Now, according to Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory, the superego dictates our moral compass, upholding what's right and what's wrong. Is that kind of the hidden message here?
That is the hidden message. That is the hidden message. I think people, what I really didn't want is for people to think that this was kind of an ego play about having a big ego. I wanted it to be a little bit more nuanced and elegant than that. And that's exactly right. We wanted it to be, we wanted to tie it back to something in his trove of work and something that people would instantly understand. And we wanted the opportunity to tell people what you just said, that this dictates the moral standards of what Freud espoused, and that's what we wanted this message to be about the cigar, and we're really proud of it.
So you just launched in May, right? How many people do you employ right now?
Right now, it's about 4. It's going to be 5 in different roles in different countries, but yeah, we're growing.
And how big do you want to get?
Big enough that we're successful, but not so big that we can't continue to make an exceptional product. And,
so you want to stay in that boutique mode at least?
Yes. I want this to be boutique. I want this to be curated luxury. I've had meetings all week with sales reps, and I'm like, this won't be discounted. There's no buy one get one. There's no 10% off. We want to protect this brand, and we want it to be something that's enduring.
And you position yourself as a luxury cigar company. What exactly does that mean?
Okay, that's a great question. I've been dying for somebody to ask me that, because I think everyone says they're luxury, and it's almost the default. They, oh, we're luxury. This is luxury. Well, why is it luxury? Why are you calling it luxury? What's luxury about it? And that's an excellent question. The packaging that we've elected to use is luxurious. It's, when you see a box, the varnished wood, the actual artistry involved in the bands, 3 bands. We spent an incredible amount of time making this a beautifully, kind of like a jewel box. But of course, everything isn't just the packaging, but packaging plays a part. All our tobaccos are at least 3 to 4 years aged. We wanted to work with some of the best blenders in the world, and we are. Weber Ventura spent over a decade with me at Davidoff of Geneva. He was set to become their master blender. He has worked with some of the great boutique blenders in the world. And if you put all that together, it's a really compelling message. It's top shelf product with a great flavor profile and curated in a way that's beautiful. That if you put it, it's kind of jewelry for the table when you put a beautiful box of cigars and you open it, and it just, cigars make everybody smile. We wanted it to be luxurious, and I think we've attained that.
And the Dominican Republic has a reputation of being the top exporter of premium handmade cigars in the world. Is that why you chose to make your cigars there?
Yes and no. The Dominican Republic was, for me, where all my contacts were, where Davidoff was based, where I worked over a decade. And it just so happens that the people that I knew that I wanted to work with were there. And I think that, in my opinion, some of the better cigar brands like Fuente and Davidoff make exceptional cigars in the Dominican Republic. I did consider Nicaragua, which is actually the biggest exporter after Cuba of premium handmade cigars into the United States. What I mean after Cuba is as a counterweight. Obviously you can't import Cuban tobacco.
Right.
But DR, it was a perfect choice.
And why do you think Cuban cigars are more famous on the international market?
Oh God, that's a great question. There's a lot of mythology involved with Cuban cigars, just like French champagne and red wine and Italian shoemaking. The reality is we're in the golden age of premium handmade cigars. There's never been more innovation. There's never been more money behind it. I think Cuban cigars, when you get a good one, are amongst the best in the world. But to say that they're the best, I think would not be factual. There's so many great brands out of the Dominican Republic, out of Nicaragua. And there's tobacco now from so many regions: Ecuador, Mexico, the Bahamas, Honduras, Cuba, obviously. There's Connecticut here. They're even growing cigar tobacco in southern Germany. Most people don't know. So,
Hmm.
there's great cigars, and I think Cuban cigars are among the best. And when they make a great one, they're among the best cigars you can get. But there's a lot of great stuff out there.
Before you were just talking about blending cigars, and how do you go about blending a new cigar like the SuperEgo, for example? What's the process look like?
It depends on your objectives and the kind of profile you're trying to create. So we wanted to make something that was a little bit more medium body and accessible, something that even a guy that was not that well versed in smoking cigars could possibly enjoy. So I think you have to first think, okay, so who are we trying to talk to, and what kind of flavor strength profile are we trying to create? Then you kind of work backwards. You kind of, well, what are the sizes going to be? And then the sizes actually dictate the strength. People don't know this, but the smaller the ring gauge, the more potent. It's the opposite of what people think. If you get a big gauge cigar, it's actually just more nicotine. The punch is in a Lancero and a Corona, Robusto size, and those are the more traditional Cuban sizes that are smaller. And so then that's the conversation. What sort of flavors do we want to accomplish? What kind of strength do we want to accomplish? And then subsequent to that, what are the kind of sizes we're looking at? And that's the way I approach this.
And I would imagine like a small startup boutique cigar companies like Freud have a daunting task. The product must be
Yes.
top notch,
Yeah.
costs need to be controlled, and you kind of need to get known. So how does your company different from the rest of the pack?
Well, I think what makes us different is, we're not just working with the 4 or 5 factories that most people are working with. We're working with Eladio Diaz, and he's making our second cigar, and he's a legend globally. And it's one of his first projects after leaving Davidoff to Geneva. I think that's a big differentiator.
Mhm.
Weber has certainly worked with a lot of other folks, but this particular cigar I think is quite special, and he doesn't really work with a lot of people either. As much as he works with a few dedicated vendors, he's not somebody that's making cigars for just about everybody. So I think that makes it different. And the Freud narrative, the Freud name, the kind of imagery and marketing and creative that we're putting out, I think that makes it interesting and compelling and disruptive. So I think if you put all that together, it's a great story, and we'll get people interested.
So if you were to describe Freud Cigar Company collection to someone who hasn't even smoked them yet, what would you tell them about your cigars that make them unique?
They're tasty, they're complex, they're not overpowering, they're accessible, and the kind of imagery and storytelling that we're telling is unique and compelling. So guys are sitting in a humidor, they're looking at what other people are smoking. And if you look at our bands, if you look at how beautifully wrapped our cigars are, the oily wrapper, the pigtail cap, it's just a great product. And then when you light it up, it doesn't disappoint. So overall, I think it's a beautifully curated product that lots of folks will enjoy.
As a new to market brand, how are you getting these cigars into the hands of customers?
Great question. So Illusion Cigars out of Reno, Nevada, they're one of the great boutique brands. Dion Giolito obviously is an icon, and they have a very strong distribution business in the United States. When I looked around and thought who we could partner with, they made sense. They've got the clientele, they've got the know-how, and I've known those guys for over a decade. So they'll have nationwide distribution. We've got 4 dedicated brokers, reps for different regions. And then obviously we're supporting all of that with the trade show in Las Vegas, the PCA trade show, which is the 8th to the 12th, where we are flying Eladio Diaz. This is the first time publicly we're telling anyone. So he's going to be on site, the legend himself, in our booth. That's how we're getting the word out and getting it into consumers' hands and into retailers' hands.
So when you have these this distributor that's sending them out to these retail outlets, are you looking at specific targeted retail outlets, or you're going mass?
Uh, well, look, our cigars are not on the lower end of the spectrum price wise,
Right.
whether it's premium pricing. So I think that by design, that's going to make the kind of retailers that are looking at this and buying this the better ones and the more affluent ones. And I think that's exactly where we'll end up.
What are you doing on social media to gain awareness?
We've got an Instagram page. We have a great company out of Vancouver curating it. We wanted to do something elegant and not something where we're posting all the time and constantly hashtagging. If you look at our Instagram page, Freud Cigar Co, it's beautifully done. It's staggered, elegant, and we're taking our time and we're making something that I think is every bit as elegant as we think Freud is the living brand that we're creating. So that's the extent of our presence right now.
And who do you see as your customer? Who's going to embrace the Freud brand first?
Well, we're hoping that it's guys like us,
Mhm.
people that love luxury, that love a good time, that love luxury goods, that appreciate well handcrafted, curated products. I think Dave Stadnick, George Safalas, myself, obviously they have more means than I do, but I appreciate beautiful things and have some. And, they love to have a good time, as do I. And I think overall, that's the kind of consumer we want. We want somebody that wants affordable luxury.
And it's a good time too, because high income consumer demand for luxury is accelerating, which can be attributed to kind of reopening and more purchasing occasions. And we're also seeing the premium cigar market
Yeah,
has also
I
been
was about to
booming.
say that too. I was about to say
Yeah, and
that too.
there's
So
no slow and doesn't look like it's slowing down. And
not
that's
slowing
despite
down.
pandemic shutdowns and cigar factories, particularly in the Dominican Republic and Honduras in the first half of 2020. What do you attribute to the surge in demand for premium cigars?
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So you're seeing companies like Chanel having incredible years. Rolex can't keep up with demand. Patek Philippe. So I think in the luxury sphere, it's never been better. With premium handmade cigars, yes, we're in the middle of a boom, and I think it was COVID related. I think a lot of folks had a lot of time, to enjoy their home and to spend time at home, and they took up more smoking or just took up smoking cigars. I had an inkling that they might want to, try this or try that with a whiskey or single malt scotch that they usually have on the weekends or with friends, and I think that's made for a boom. And it's the absolute best time to get into this industry right now. I say because it's both from a luxury standpoint and from a premium handmade cigar standpoint. It's a very strong business.
So you recently announced that you hired longtime industry veteran Eladio Diaz as serving as the master blender of its second cigar. Can you explain to listeners what a master blender does and what will Mr. Diaz add to the quality of the cigar?
Well, first, let me frame who the man is, and then I can
That would
work
be great.
backwards. Yeah. So Eladio Diaz would be, if I could say, Bob Dylan in the '60s. So the one of the most iconic, revered people in the entire industry. He's not showy. He doesn't really show up to events. He doesn't do interviews. Perhaps the most elusive of the greats, and curated the entire globally recognized portfolio for Davidoff of Geneva, and was there for almost 40 years. So this is a gigantic, huge, undertaking to have somebody like this work with us and to curate our second cigar, a limited edition of that. So in and of itself, that's a huge deal and a huge deal within the industry. When you add to that the fact that he's going to be joining us at the PCA trade show in person, it just makes for great fun. A master blender. So a master blender curates, much like wine or a chef at dinner, curates and creates your vision. In this case, I told him, your vision is more than enough for me. I want you to make this size cigar. We're going to announce at some point what it is, and I want it to be really complex, really interesting, really something unique that's going to get people excited. And that's exactly what he delivered. And that's why we're calling it a love letter to the craft. And we're calling it agape, which means in Greek, the highest form of love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's this blend is his love letter to the industry.
So the FDA regulations have been an issue in the cigar industry. Are you finding them almost impossible to succeed in the cigar industry with these regulations?
Well, I think not at present, the regulations. I think what's on the table and what's being mulled over and what we're all fighting, I think, getting rid of packaging in a way where it's like Australia or Canada, where, you can't have a brand. It's just basically a bland, unbanded, unboxed kind of product. I think that just takes away from the majesty, the beauty of what a cigar brand could and should be. And then, I don't think, premium handmade cigars should be treated like cigarettes. It's, kids don't buy it. It's too expensive for them. And it's a luxury product. It shouldn't be looked upon like cigarettes. But cigarettes are a mechanical thing that people get hooked on to get a fix. Cigars are something that people bring out to celebrate a birthday, a graduation, a baby being born, a milestone in their lives. It's not a mechanical thing like cigarettes, and it should be cigars are different, and they should be looked upon differently and regulated differently, not in the same vein as cigarettes.
So do you have any plans for the brand to expand into cigar accessories like cigar cutters, humidors, storage boxes, things like that?
Yes. I have a few ideas and a few partners that I've been thinking about. We've got a lot on our plate now, but certainly I'd love to make something with my friends at St. Dupont Paris or Elie Bleu Paris. I'd love to make the iconic Line 2 lighter that Marilyn Monroe and Humphrey Bogart were fond of using into a Freud branded piece at some point. These are just ideas I'm throwing out. But absolutely, I'd love to see that. And I think it would be the natural progression for the brand.
So what can we expect from Freud Cigar Company in the next 12 months? Do we see like an id and an ego collection perhaps? Or even better yet, a Freudian slip edition?
Actually, we are working on something with that. Yes, you're going to see more regular production cigars, more limited edition cigars. A lot of the imagery and vocabulary of what Freud is known for and revered for in branding as well. And we're working on something that's going to be hyper premium. That's a special project. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's coming down the pike. So it's exciting. It's exciting for me because it's like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, I mean, what does it feel like to build your own luxury brand?
It's amazing. It's exhilarating. Sometimes I wake up and I can't believe, how did, it's a great opportunity. And, we've got great, visionary leaders, the private equity firm that we're partnering with that, David Stadnick and I, George, we got great people that understand and want the same things. And when you put all that together, it's a great story.
Well, lots of luck to you, Luis Torres, co-founder of Freud Cigar Company. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Scott, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me. This was fabulous. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Facing the Giants. Please tell a friend about the show. Now that you know this show, go check out my other podcast, The Luxury Item. It's a podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the industry. You can find The Luxury Item wherever you found this podcast. Facing the Giants is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'll be back soon with another episode.